Because of buying or selling your home, you want someone in your corner who has their finger on the pulse of the housing market. If you're looking to invest in real estate, you need a team to make sure your numbers work. Trust Real Estate today with Cindi and Jody and the years of experience that they
Break, I'll grab it.
Call or text
Wing it.
267-1023 or message us on Facebook at Richardson Group KW Cleveland. You can also reach our office at 790-7979 or online at rg423.com. Each Keller Williams office is independently owned and operated.
Good morning, Cindy. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're listening to us, I can't talk this morning already, on the radio, remember that you can also watch us live on the Richardson Group KW Cleveland Facebook page. So we're there hanging out with you as well. We love to answer your questions. So if you have any questions or concerns, give us a shout. We'd love to help you. That's what we're here for. So it's been a little bit of a week. Cindy's been out of town on some training. That is one thing we say all the time. We are devoted to doing things a little differently, and one of the ways we do that is to constantly learn and grow for our clients. So we hope that you get some value about what we talk about today. That is really our entire goal.
Yeah, y'all were really busy while I was gone.
Yeah, it's been a good week. It's been a busy week. So today, just to give you a little bit of a heads up, I think it's a fun show. It's something that we jokingly talk about at the office all the time, about these really unrealistic expectations that HGTV, shows, social media in general, have kind of built up what the home buying and selling process looks like, and that's not incredibly accurate. So we're going to talk to you about that. One of the other things that we do think is really important is that you are getting accurate information and that you really understand how the things that are going on in the media and the things that you're hearing actually affect you, because it's easy to, everything is doomsday and interest rates, that's all you hear. And for the most people, that doesn't really carry the weight that it does with us. So we're going to help break that down, help you understand that and what that looks like. So we are going to start a new segment this week called The Real State of Real Estate. So I'm going to turn it over to Cindy just a moment, who is going to kind of fill you in on where things are and how that affects you. So official sounding.
Yeah.
So Cindy, what you got? Let's talk about what's going on.
Yeah, let's talk about the real
state of
real estate. You know I'm going to mess that up.
We thought we were real clever with that title till it had to come out of our mouths.
I think looking at the numbers, it kind of it's what we feel out there in the market right now. We are seeing inventory levels go up. So as of October, so we're going to talk about numbers through the end of October, we saw the listing inventory, Hamilton County single family homes, was up to 1,014 active listings. So that was up. Last year at this time, we were at 960. Now in 2021 at that time, we were at 611 listings.
And I think it's important, again, to think about that, how that affects the general public. Mm-hmm. We see as realtors, when inventory starts to increase, typically days on the market tend to do what?
Increase.
So it's going to take a little longer. Now, I do think it's telling.
Now, I think that it's not going up as fast as you would think based on the inventory. When you look at a seller's market is when you have less than, let's say, about 4 months of inventory on the market. A buyer's market is when you have more than 6 months of inventory on the market. A balanced market is going to be somewhere between 6 and 12, or 4 and 6 months of inventory on the market.
And I think it's important to note, we've been around during a buyer's market. Mm-hmm. Is this a buyer's market? Mm-mm. No. Mm-mm. And you hear that. I hear that daily. It's a buyer's market. Mm-hmm. So
I think that last month we probably could feel that it was becoming more of a buyer's market, but no, it absolutely is not. Based on the numbers, as of October, we are at 2.44, so 2.5 months of inventory on the market. That means if no other homes came on the market and we stayed at the current pace, it would take us 2.5 months to sell all of the inventory that's currently on the market. but that is up from 2022. We were right at 2 months of inventory on the market in October. 2021, when it was such a crazy seller's market, we were at 1 month of inventory on the market. So we have come up quite a bit, but we are still not even in a balanced market. We're still in that seller's market.
And I think it's so important for people to realize that 2 months, 60 days on the market is not a long time historically. That feels fire sale, drastic. People are panicking, and I want to shake them and be like, there was a lot of my career where 6 months on the market was not unheard of.
The average days on the market for the month of October, 28 days on the market. So, and that's from the time that you put your home on the market until you go under contract. So it's not counting your contract period, just the days that you were actually on there. Yes, still slightly less than a month. That is up 6 days from last year. So October of last year, we were at 22 days on the market. So up a little bit, but not quite as much as you would expect. But you do see the average days on the market and the average, months absorption rate increasing. So we are seeing more inventory, and things are not moving quite as fast. Now, one of the interesting things that I found was that in the month of October was the first time we've seen the median home sale price go back slightly. So this time last year we were at $360. This month, or last month, we were at $350. So that is the first time in a very long time I've seen that slide back. But that was only in the sold median home price. The average was up. The pending sales were up. Everything was still up.
And again, I think from a seller standpoint, take a deep breath. People are not, you're not giving your house away. I think from a buyer standpoint.
And that doesn't mean that we're seeing prices back up.
Yeah, and I was going to say from a buyer standpoint, it's so frustrating to hear people say, I'm going to wait till prices come down. I'm going to wait till prices come down. Prices are not coming down. And we've been calling it, if you've been listening to this radio show for a year, we've been saying the overinflated prices that we saw for the last 2 years affected, it was kind of a trickle down. We had to wait for that to settle back into normalcy. And I think that is what we're seeing more so than a price drop. We're just seeing a little bit of a reality check, a little bit of a settlement.
And we're going to still continue to see those average days on the market go up, and we're going to see that absorption rate go up, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Again, if we can get to 4 to 6 months worth of inventory currently on the market, we will be in a balanced market, which will help us keep home prices from continuing to go up at the rates that they have been going up.
You have some time and some room for negotiation. So that helps from a buyer standpoint. You have some time and some room for negotiation, which also helps from a seller standpoint. So it's not a bad thing. And I do think it's important to realize that there's still a shortage of housing, especially in our area. And until there are more houses than there are buyers, we're not going to see a drastic price change. And quite frankly, from two agents that pay a lot of attention to building permits, activity, things that are going on, we have a lot of inventory and a lot of business growth, which is a blessing, but we do not have the housing ticking at the same rate to stay on track with that.
Right.
So things are not going to bottom out. The bottom's not going to fall out. Housing prices are not going to drastically fall.
Yeah.
You're really better off to buy a house and look forward to hopefully a little bit of a drop in an interest rate rather than waiting for home prices to drastically fall.
We did see interest rates drop 0.5% this week.
And I feel like that's kind of why we're changing things up a little bit. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of sick of hearing about interest rates. I get it. It sucks. It is what it is. We wish they were lower. They're not. We do think, we've been calling that for a little while too. I think elections will have a huge impact. They always do on interest rates. The fact of the matter is, there was a post that I saw on social media this week, and we're really reluctant. We don't share everything that we see with you because we want to be able to back it up factually. So we don't know exactly where that came from, but the numbers were pretty powerful. Basically, it said if you went back 30, 40 years, interest rates were about where they are now. And if you had waited for things to come down, you literally would have waited 22 years for things to reset themselves. It really needs to become more at this point. We've been spoiled with interest rates the way that they were. There is a silver lining to everything. Yes, we had really low interest rates, but we also had people paying drastically over asking price. We had people waiving inspections, giving up contingencies that they should not have. So yeah, you got a low interest rate, but you really took a lot of risks. You don't have to take those risks. We do feel confident.
You can actually take your time and look at more than
yeah,
one house.
and you have some bargaining. You have some time to work through what is important to you, and it's not always just money. So then you always have the option to refinance.
Right.
So I think the general consensus is we actually have a couple of our clients and friends watching us. We've got Joe on our Facebook Live. He's one of our preferred lenders. And I mean, Joe, disagree with me if I'm wrong, but I think, interest rates drop a point, it's worth refinancing, is what I've always been told. So I really do think you're better off to get the house you want and have some time to think about it and work through those contingencies with the plan of
It'd be
refinancing.
interesting to see in the future what the statistics come out, how much people end up losing because they did over asking price or because they didn't do home inspections, how much that cost them. So at least with the market leveling out a little bit, you do have time to make a good decision.
And how many times have you and I said, I could strangle us both for not taking advantage of opportunities that we had 10 or 12 years ago when we were afraid to because of the way the market was.
And I understand being afraid. I mean,
you need to be able to afford your house payment.
Right.
Don't get us wrong. We're not trying to say get yourself in a bad situation, but if you can afford where things are, buying real estate is never a bad investment.
Right.
If you look at return on your investment, it is the safest investment that you're ever going to make. And I say it all the time. We're not making any more dirt. Buy real estate and wait. Don't wait to buy real estate because historically, I hate to say it never gets better, but there's never going to be a better time for you. So when you're able, bite the bullet. We can help you work through ways to do that. There's lots of, I saw today, actually on the way here, 5 or 6 listings where they were advertising willingness to buy down rates, to buy down points. So there's lots of ways.
And I think you kind of have
there.
to weigh that out too, because if you can get the home at a better price, are you better off to pay a slightly higher payment, knowing that you may refinance within the next 3 years? Kind of do the math and figure out where you need to be. This is where it's important to have a strong loan officer that can run those numbers for you and guide you in the best way to do that.
Yeah, and call somebody. We talk about it all the time. It doesn't always have to be a realtor, a lender, a realtor, your banker, whomever that may be. And see where you are, see where your situation is. And sometimes it's not your forever, it's what's best for you right now. And we want to help you get there.
Yeah.
And the best way historically you can do that is through investing in real estate. I think that it's time. Jesse, do we need to take a break? Okay, we're going to step away for just a minute. When we get back, we're going to get down to the nitty gritty. We're going to talk about how HGTV has maybe messed you up a little bit. Can you guys hear us on Facebook Live?
I can hear you.
You can hear us talking during the commercial break?
Yeah. Hold on.
Yes. Okay. We still haven't got it figured out. Sorry.
Joe, you cannot hear the commercial, correct?
Hold on, they're about to start playing a commercial. You tell it now. Can you hear the commercial? I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Hold on. Can you hear Can you hear us talking now? Can you hear me talking? Joe? Joe didn't realize he was going to have to.
The commercial's on the side.
But how can they?
It's coming through the phone.
Okay, so let's do this. Can you hear me
That's the same
talking
thing.
now?
That's no different what you just did.
Are you stuck in your old car? No problem. We'll get you released from your old loan or lease, even if you have months left or still owe thousands.
There's no way she can hear the commercial
Don't sweat it.
unless she's hearing it over the speaker.
Job, and you've make at least $2 grand a month. I'll do my best to get you approved. So if another dealer asks you for any down payment at all, just say no. It's November. Every new Kia is available with no money down and no payments for 3 months. Come see me, John Davis, the trade-in man at Kia Cleveland on South D Highway in beautiful Cleveland, Tennessee, where buying your car is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 23 Kia Forte LXS 0 down 349 per month for 84 months at 7.9.
Can you hear us now, Alexis? Just texting.
I don't know what to do. Oh, that doesn't
Alexis,
make
you can
any
hear
sense.
us or the commercial.
Get the best marketing for your home. Go to RG423.com. Put more money in your car.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey, Wisconsin.
Hey, good morning. You're headed to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car.
Do you mean to end it?
No.
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
It is what it is.
These days with the price of gas being so high.
Do we have a splitter?
For me, I use
Is there a splitter over there?
free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use
I guess we have to say something so she can figure out if she can hear us or the commercial.
5 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime. Right
I don't
to
know what
your
it is.
account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside
she's still
app
hearing
and use
us.
promo code PARK for a 25 cents a gallon bonus.
It's got to be the cord.
That's code PARK.
Want your household
That doesn't make any sense.
the Cindi Richardson team. It's all part of Keller Williams. They will get it done for you. Each Keller Williams office is
Something, I mean, it could be something wrong with this cord.
Richardson Group. That's Richardson Group. Start packing.
Welcome back to Real Estate Today. I'm Cindy and this is Jody.
So let's get into it. One of the things that we joke about very frequently in our day-to-day that's frustrating is the effect that, the Chip and Joanna Gaines effect, the house hunters effect that we deal with on a daily basis because so many people have fallen into that HGTV trap. Don't get me wrong. I love it. Super entertaining. I think it's pretty safe TV, so I don't know about you, but every single doctor's office appointment, everywhere I go, HGTV is playing in the background. So you're sitting in a waiting room, you're watching these people find their quote-unquote dream homes, it gets pretty hilarious. So let's talk today about...
Well, I think what got us on this too was a few weeks ago we were talking about first-time home buyers and their unrealistic expectations of the market. I mean, house envy is a real thing, and HGTV has kind of ruined what people's expectations are of housing.
Well, and it's, the statistics that we found said that 64% of home buyers are disappointed in the homes that they're touring. We said it before, and it is the truth. We still have a housing shortage. So there is not an abundance of homes. There are more people looking than there are homes available. So that does make the pickings kind of slim. And dependent on your price point, a lot of times those houses are sold before you ever get the opportunity to get in them. So I think that's important. The fact that HGTV and these type shows, and I don't want to keep pooping on HGTV, but these home buying shows have perpetuated
Home buying, home flipping,
yeah,
home selling.
that you can look, these people are literally going to look at 3 homes, fall in love, find their dream home, and live happily ever after. How often do you show 3 houses and somebody finds one they love?
No, I mean, looking at homes, it's also about getting the education on what your price range, what you can buy, and it's an education process. So getting that in 3 homes is very difficult.
Well, and the first conversation versus where you end up in the end is usually night and day. So like Cindy said, that is a process that you have to go through. That's why it's so important to work with a realtor that you trust, that is going to continue to point you back towards your motivation. That's why that is so important. The other thing is, especially homes that, or I'm sorry, shows that lean towards fixing up, flipping. There is not an abundance of foreclosures and flips on the market. There's honestly not a lot of good deals.
I think those shows should come with a disclaimer. They should tell you what year the show was recorded, which they do not, because I have looked. Because there's a very big difference if you were selling in 2021 versus if you were selling today.
Well, and we're going to get into the renovation side of it. That's a whole other story. But to think that you're going to go into a house, like Cindy said, you don't know when they purchased the home. They got it, the listing price was $300,000. They offered $225,000, and the people negotiated back to $245,000. Like, that does not happen in a market where there is a shortage of availability, and especially not in certain price ranges. So, right off the bat, you've given people some preconceived notions that are not necessarily correct. My favorite,
even when foreclosures, when they were abundant and you could find them everywhere, I had so many people that would come to me and they'd want to flip homes and they'd want to see foreclosures.
Till they smelled one.
Yes, and we laughed and we called it the smell of a foreclosure after you went into one or two of them, because even a good one is going to sit vacant for a very long time before the bank takes possession of it again. So there's a lot, houses don't like to be empty. So at that point, you probably have a little bit of mold growing. You have all kinds of issues going on, just simply because it's been sitting there vacant, and people very quickly would discover whether they were made for flipping or not.
And people that say, I don't mind a little work. Okay, we'll see what you mind. And there are people that don't mind a little work, but the majority of people that think they, Chip Gaines is going to show up in the front yard with a banner and move it out of the way in 3 days.
The house didn't go into foreclosure because they had money to take care of it, and it's sitting there in perfect condition, and all you're going to have to come in and do is replace the flooring and maybe paint a little bit. That's not the case.
And a lot of times, even what you see that's wrong is literally just the tip of the iceberg. You're not seeing the stuff that's under the surface. My favorite one, and we joke about this all the time, is these people's careers 100% do not match their budget. So you've got, Kathy who collects thimbles, and Brian who
sharpens pencils for a living.
Yeah, and their budget is $1.2 million. That does not happen. So you immediately
not since 2006.
Not at all. Like when you could fog a mirror, stated income loans. Thank God that's not happening anymore. But people go in with house envy anyway because they see this finished beautiful home, and then they're slapped in the face with what they can actually afford. So it's important to get a realtor that's going to help educate you on what you can have, and if the cosmetic is what is most important to you, that is absolutely okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If you care more about what a house looks like, that's great. But we might have to sacrifice on area. We might have to sacrifice on the number of bedrooms.
Size of lot.
Yeah, there's ways that we can get you there, but you're not going to get a beachfront home for $150,000 that you negotiated down from $600 when you collect thimbles for a living. That is not going to happen. So of all of the things that I think they have, given us false hope about, that's probably the first one. Like, realistic expectations about where you are in life, where you are budget-wise, what you're comfortable with a payment. That's why it's so important.
Well, and here's the thing, too. If a home is not in good condition, safe condition, you're not going to get an FHA, a VA, or any type of government-backed loan. So just keep that in mind. If you're wanting to do a flipper or a rehab or anything like that, you've got to have some type of conventional or cash or some other form of financing.
Yeah.
You're not going to get an FHA or a VA. With those types of loans, you cannot have any type of flaking paint. You have to have flooring in the home. You can't go in and buy something that doesn't have countertops. There's a whole lot of restrictions.
And I know people get so frustrated with us when we push them towards a lender right out of the gate, but there's lots of reasons for that. It's not about trying to force a house on you or force you into a financial decision. It's about helping you reach your goals. And we've got to know where you stand so that we can help get you to where you want to be. So realtor is important. Lender is equally important. The other thing that I did find that was telling, Entertainment Weekly did a report where they interviewed a publicist who confirmed that this is a quote, in order to maximize production time, we seek out families who are pretty far along in the home buying process. We go back and revisit the homes that the family has already ruled out. Many times those homes are already sold. They've already sold to someone else. So the look at 3 homes, which we understand that is staged, obviously. The look at 3 home scenario, often the house they pick, they've already bought. They've already committed to that house. And so a lot of times these production companies reach out to realtors and say, who do you have that's already under contract? Who do you have personality-wise that you think would be a good fit?
Or it could be that it's not even real buyers.
Well, I was going to say,
I've heard one that was that they were pretending to be a couple, and they were not even in a couple. They didn't even really buy the home.
And I think understanding that these people are selling a story, they're selling entertainment. It works, and we love it, but it's not reality. And the part I think that is the most important to point out that they omit is that discussion. Is the working through it, is the negotiating, the give
learning
and take. Yeah. And I would love a show, and I think it could be very entertaining where that's what it was about. It really wasn't about the end game. It was about the process to get there. Because that can get really entertaining, but it's realistic. It's what really happens. So I think that is important to understand. I think, let me make sure I covered everything. Looking at 3 homes, they've already made a buying decision. Jobs and homes don't often match jobs and income don't match the home they end up buying. We talked about there's not an abundance of flips, foreclosures, and
I don't think there's going to be, because even if prices begin to back up a little bit, which I don't think they will, but if they do, people have too much equity. After seeing the appreciation that we've had for the last several years, we would have to back up tremendously for people to actually owe more than what they could sell the home for, so that they could get part of their equity out to be able to get rid of a home.
And the fact of the matter is, people got in at really good rates without crazy second mortgages. And when we saw all of that fallout before, it was directly correlated to that predatory lending, to the crazy loans, the adjustable rate
and
mortgages.
a lot of it had to do with refinancing.
Yes.
So people got in, and we were seeing appreciation. Then they would take out a second mortgage. They would pull all of the equity out of their home.
Buy a boat.
Yes, and they would buy a boat or a car or pay off their debt, but they would not do things to the home to increase the value of the home. So they were spending their equity on other things, and then were shocked to find out that they were upside down on their equity that they had already spent.
Absolutely. I think we're going to take a quick break. When we come back on Real Estate Today, we're going to talk about how they actually pay for these impressive remodels on these home improvement shows that you see, and what that really looks like in real life. So don't go away. We've got lots more to talk to you about when we come back.
Okay.
You go here.
So if Alexis can just tell us what she hears.
You go here.
Alexis, are you hearing the commercial or us? Did you turn your volume off? She said she hears nothing. Hold on, she's typing something else. Now it's quiet in the back. So you're not hearing us.
That's fine. I'd rather it be that way. We don't want her to hear us.
Silence mode off. Now let's see what happens. Okay, so what are you hearing now? No, I hear y'all.
Do what?
Said sorry about that. I was trying to find music.
No, you're good.
So did you get
She hears the
the
commercial in the background. It's still live. It's still hot.
so hot?
It's hot, and I don't understand that at all.
Because it's still hot through it's not even attached.
But see,
And
your
you're
mic's
hearing
not
us.
hot, and you're in the same thing. But she can hear the commercial quietly in the background.
That's because she's hearing it over the speaker through the phone. It's the phone. It's not the cord. It's a setting on the phone. It has to be.
Might be.
Or the cord's not working.
irregardless, she can hear through the phone.
Correct, which would be because the cord's not working. That's why I flipped the cord around.
I trust is Cindi Jody. Her personalized marketing plan attracts more
So this would be a really bad time to talk about our hot takes on
Yeah.
hot button issues.
Yeah, we probably should keep our opinions to ourselves.
Hey, Chattanooga, listen to this. Integrity Automotive Group is having a huge sale with up to 10% off.
What is this?
2023.
Remember, my mic is hot, so what is this?
Oh, that's my message is to you.
To us?
Yeah.
Sweet, okay.
Yeah, I was talking about the HGTV.
Yes.
It's either HGTV or couples board.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Selection and deep discounts on new GMC, Cadillac, Chevrolet, Buick, and Mazda vehicles in stock.
Okay, say something so she can tell whether she's listening to us or the commercial.
But there's more. We need your trade
this?
and we'll give up to
I still hear y'all.
fair market value to buy it.
Well, I have no idea then.
We have over 300 pre-owned vehicles in stock at Integrity Buick GMC.
But then it looks weird when we're just staring at the camera. Okay, guys, there's a commercial playing in the background. We're
I
not
can
just
hear the
sitting here
commercial.
very
It's just
quietly.
quiet.
Have you not
yeah,
watched
but-
one back?
Yeah, but that's better than them listening to us. Just be quiet. If they couldn't hear us, we'd be quiet. I'm telling you to be quiet. That never happens. Y'all don't understand. Nobody's watching us now. Oh, wait. You don't understand the discipline it takes for me to be quiet for a whole 3 minutes.
It's got to be the cord.
Stop touching it. You're stressing me out.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey, Wisconsin. Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back.
see Jesse.
Every
Y'all want to see Jesse?
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually
There's
get
Jesse.
real money
Wait,
back
Jesse.
when you get gas with the Upside app?
Wait.
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Let's start doing that in commercials. We're going to flip around to you.
$300.
Wow.
Watch you.
Extra cash. I'm downloading
Hold on.
the app now.
Download the free Upside app.
What?
to Earn real cash back.
Why would you do that to your lemon?
Promo code
That was funny.
for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code PARK for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your
Okay.
first tank.
So here.
Code PARK.
Cost. Listen to Jed. It's right, Jed.
She said she can figure it out if she comes with us.
I miss Jack with the intros. He's definitely much better at this
I know.
than I am. Welcome back to Real Estate Today with Cindi and Jody. We are talking to you today about some of the myths that shows, home buying shows, I won't name them directly, on some very popular home improvement networks have created, and some of those falsehoods and ways that we're working to overcome those. If you are listening to us live on the radio, we appreciate you. Feel free to call in. We love your questions. We'd love to help you with any of your real estate needs. You can also
My
reach
seat keeps
us.
coming.
You can also watch us on Facebook Live. It's pretty ridiculous. I'll just give you a heads up.
Still don't have the
yeah,
tech down. Something's still wrong.
You can also visit us at rg423.com or contact us at our office. I cannot talk today at 423-790-7979. We'd love to help you. So we've talked about some of the myths that shows that we love to watch, admittedly, have created. But I think one of the biggest things that we need to touch on before we're finished today is the cost that goes into those. What that truly looks like, what that looks like in real life as compared to what you're seeing on TV. So I think the biggest unrealistic expectations is realistic expectations about the finished work, about construction timelines, and the cost of those. what that looks like, who pays for it, what it looks like when it's all said
Well,
and done.
a lot of times you'll see like where they pay $250 for the home and they put $50,000 into renovation, so they're $300,000 in. They sell it for $350, so they make $50,000 profit. They're not telling you the whole story. So there is still closing cost when you buy the home. There's closing cost when you sell the home. There's carrying cost when you have it. So even if you pay cash, you're still paying utilities, insurance, maintenance. There's a whole lot going on, and they're not giving you those costs too. And then let's also not forget you have taxes. So there's a whole lot that's going into the cost that they are not putting on those shows.
Well, and it's also important to understand that when extensive renovations are completed, it's often for very unrealistic prices because contractors are willing to work at reduced prices
For the show.
in order to get their name out there on the show and hopefully create business. As a result, we see buyers that want these upgrades, but they're disappointed that homes in their price range don't offer these features. Well, of course they don't offer those features because those features were done for sometimes half or a third of what the actual price was. That Entertainment Weekly article that I referenced before also pointed out that many times the home buyer fronts about half of the cost, and the other half of the cost is covered by production and donated services and so on and so forth. So that $50,000 reno cost that you're seeing is actually more like $100 or $110. So nobody's making a profit when it's all said and done. It
And
just
they
sounds
also
good.
they buy in bulk, so they know that if they're doing so many homes per year that they can buy in bulk and they can warehouse this stuff and be able to offer it a whole lot cheaper. That's assuming that the vendors are not giving things up front so that they can get their names on the show.
And timelines. I mean,
Oh,
my goodness.
Nobody has ever flipped a home in 3 days.
We're
ever.
just now getting to where things are, I would consider, even remotely reasonable. You're building a home, and how long did you wait on windows?
I don't even
Like
know.
8 weeks
I've
or
lost
something
count at this
insane. I
point.
mean, you're not getting things quickly because of supply chain issues that are still
It's not as
lingering.
bad as it was.
It's
I mean,
much better, but it's not happening in 3 days. The beauty of these production crews is they buy those items in bulk, like Cindy said. They have them sitting in a warehouse, or they call the manufacturer directly, who donates what they have sitting.
And most of them have their own crews.
Yeah.
So they have their own painters, plumbers, electricians, whereas out here in the real world, if you fall behind on one task, so you're going to bring the plumber in before the sheetrock comes in, so there's things have to happen in a certain timeline. Well, if the plumber doesn't make it on time, well, then you have to back up the sheetrocker. You have to back everybody up, and by doing that, you have to get on their schedules again. So one little mishap could back your entire project up tremendously. That doesn't happen on those shows because they're bringing their own crews in that are all sitting right there waiting. Still, they're not doing it in 3 days, but it's still much quicker than.
One thing that I read too, and I won't quote where, because again, I think it's important to have correct information, but oftentimes these repairs are not extensive repairs. A lot of the work that is done, keep in mind, they are selling a story. The buyer is fully aware. Nobody has the wool pulled over their eyes, but they're not disclosing everything to us as the viewer. So a lot of times this extensive work is really just cosmetic cover-ups. They've painted over wallpaper. They've painted countertops. They've wallpapered over paneling. So it looks really good to the naked eye, but it's not knocked down a wall, did major, huge
If you are
renovation.
knocking down a wall or moving plumbing, it's a very expensive renovation. It's not something that you're going to spend $50,000 on a kitchen. You're going to get into a whole lot more than that if you were taking it down to the studs and you're moving things, where they're not telling you how much it costs to move that plumbing to a different area.
Right. And so you get what looks right, but is maybe not functional. And again, they're not doing anything illegal. The buyer knows
It's
what
a
it
show.
is.
It's
but
not
it's
reality.
for a story. So, everybody knows going in, but there's not a disclaimer for those of us watching that, they moved the kitchen sink, but none of the plumbing is there. So somebody's going to have to front the bill for that after the fact, which is fine if everybody's on board with that, but it's not realistic for your average homeowner. It is important to realize, though, that there are some attainable ways to get that look that you want. Things like painting cabinets, replacing cabinet hardware,
Painting
fixtures.
cabinets is probably one of the easiest ways to give an update and save a lot of money. So then you can put your money maybe into countertops or something and not into the cabinets themselves. So if your cabinets are in good shape, they're real wood, then you can have them painted. You can do it yourself. I would recommend you bring a professional in so that they're not sticky. I mean, I think we've all seen sticky cabinets.
Or they look really good from far away.
Yeah.
So you get up in the kitchen.
Well, I think over the last few years with distressed being in,
you just beat it up and it looks good.
You can get away with a whole lot. But now that we're kind of moving away from that, it's going to be a little harder because it's not as easy as just slapping paint onto it. You do have to sand it. You have to do a lot of things. If your cabinets are wood and they're, you're not going to paint them, changing your hardware can be very, very easy. I just did this at my house, and I mean, it's not
big difference.
Huge difference. Huge. Now let me tell you, you have to pay attention to things like where the hinges line up, because
what kind of screwdriver are you using?
My hinges were off just slightly, and I had to re-drill every one of them.
She might have stripped a few screws in that process.
Well, I am an expert at getting stripped screws out now, but I mean, you have to pay attention to a whole lot of things, and I am amazed at how many different size handles there are. 3-inch centers, 3.5, 3.25. Mind blowing at the different size of handles.
So that's where it goes back to, in a market where there's not an abundance, there's not a million houses for sale and all of this negotiating room, it may look like you settle, and I hate to use the word settle, but pay attention to the things that are big things.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it at? We can't pick it up and put it somewhere else. What is the floor plan? Because barring a few odd circumstances, knocking walls down and relocating plumbing is a big deal.
Very big deal.
So does the floor plan work for you? Does the location work for you? And then work on the cosmetic things.
Mm-hmm.
And
sometimes
you can get that feel without the money.
It can be cost effective to do some things like if you have enough room to turn a half bath into a full bath, your plumbing's already right
Big
there.
return.
Now, if you're on a slab, that's going to be more difficult, but if you're on a crawl space or you have access to the plumbing from the above the home, the attic space, that can be a lot more cost effective. So some things, moving plumbing's not bad as long as the plumbing's in the area and you pay attention to where you can move some walls. Moving something that is a load-bearing wall, that can get very expensive.
One other thing I do want to one thing I do want to touch on before we take another break really quickly is staging. Okay, let's understand that staging is, I would argue, top 3 most important things you do when you go to get a house ready to sell. Understand that when they pull that curtain back on Flip or Flop or whatever it is that you're watching and you're taken aback, that HGTV effect has made this staging setting the house off glaringly obvious. You need to understand that those homeowners don't own those items. One of the funniest articles I read was literally, the house was beautiful. Within 30 seconds of wrapping, they loaded all of that furniture up on a truck and
took it to the next one.
Yeah. So walking into a naked, empty house is going to give you a different feeling than walking into a fully furnished, staged home. That's important for you to realize as a seller, how important that is. And when we give you advice about staging your home to get it ready for selling, think about what HGTV does to you. That, huge, if they just flung the doors open and it was a completely empty house, you'd be like, pretty. It wouldn't give you nearly that reaction. So it's important from a selling point. But from a buying point, it's also, you got to be able to see yourself there. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to see your furniture there, see it. So again, pay attention to the big stuff. It might have a really cool shiplap wall that you love.
But what's behind the shiplap?
But does all the big stuff make sense? Is it in the right location? There's so much more to it than what is pretty. And I think that is really, really important.
I hate that shiplap's going out of style because the last several years, anything that was ugly just covered in shiplap.
But what's
absolutely
funny is
everything.
Shiplap in itself, let me get on a tangent about HGTV here. Shiplap in itself is beautiful. It is the most structurally sound. You knock a wall down in a 100-year-old house, it is 2x4 shiplap in the walls. It's beautiful. And a lot of this moody, jewel-toned, darker colors, I'm seeing that painted shiplap that's real shiplap. It's not that paneling, covered-up shiplap that we've seen. So there are ways to take things that are maybe going out and modernize them. But shiplap in itself, I feel like, is going to get a bad rap because it's so associated to HGTV
decor.
and Joanna Gaines and farmhouse decor. And that's all great and beautiful. But guess what? Our grandparents had farmhouse decor 100 years
And
ago.
here's the thing, if you like shiplap, go
Do
for
it.
Do
Put it
whatever
everywhere.
makes you happy. It's your home.
And it's a great way, like Cindy said, if you have an older home with additions and, I've even seen it on ceilings. It's a great way to cover up maybe a cosmetic issue. Paint
about
it,
to cut you off.
modernize it. Jesse's back there doing charades at me. Okay,
You
we're
want to
gonna
flip it again?
yeah, we're gonna take a quick break. When we do, we're gonna come back, close it out for you. Talk how you can work through the HGTV effect. I can't talk today.
Remember, they can hear you. Where'd we leave off?
We're done. I think that's a short one. Talk about actual foreclosures. I felt they were full last week. You want to talk about actual foreclosures? Is there still room to flip? Is flipping still an option? Is there a way to make money today?
Custom marketing to the right buyers. In Chattanooga, the agent I trust is Cindi Jody. Her personalized marketing plan attracts more
This is
buyers
good
and
today.
sells more homes for money. She can bring biggest instant offers. Get the best marketing for your home. Go to archie423.com and put more money in your pockets. Taking one cash offer for your home doesn't have to be your only option. I'm Barbara Porter, and especially in today's current market, having a local real estate agent who offers great marketing and options customized to fit your needs is smart. In Chattanooga, the agent I trust is Cindi Jody. Cindy can give you a exclusive offer in 24 hours, customized marketing plans, and the whole team of experts. Get the option that's right for you. Go to archie423.com.
Oh, there's no place like home for the holidays. So as loved ones visit this season, how does the exterior of your house look? Oh, no! Uh-oh. Before you hang the lights, better call the professionals at Chattanooga Valley Pressure Washing. Whether it's house siding yikes or maybe a little outside degreasing, Chattanooga Valley Pressure Washing is the one to
You look happy.
licensed and insured.
Some families it's a blessing.
Huh?
Is it for some families it's a blessing?
Chattanooga Valley Pressure Washing.
And no place like home.
So do you think it's the setting on the phone or the cord?
I have no idea.
You just use your error.
But it shouldn't. It doesn't even make sense. It's got to be the cord. Because if we plug
I
it into your
say
headphone set,
Next week, bring in the old iPad. Just yeah.
I meant to do that this week and I forgot. Look at the way we're sitting. I look like Shrek. I look so big.
Yeah, thanks for
My head's like 9
my
times
seat's
the
the
size of here.
I've been a rideshare driver.
Yeah, that was kind of crap.
yeah, every time I raise
Crappy
up,
seat.
With the price of gas being so high.
isn't that a commode?
Oh, shoot.
Wait a minute.
Okay,
Hey, Tracy.
You actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I
I don't know who else is watching.
Actually add up to anything?
That's oh,
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code PARK for an extra 25 cents.
Who said they couldn't hear?
No, that was when we were asking Joe. And
Anytime, right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon.
it's got to be the cord. I flipped the cord around because it was not going in good to the attachment. Do you see that?
I don't know.
Do we have another one of these?
Oh,
Hand me back. Do you see how it won't go in there?
in where?
Right there.
It's in there.
No. And that end goes in better than this end did. Oh, wait. Oh, wait, I got it over there now.
Couldn't help myself.
Nothing.
Ready to buy a home? Chatmortgage.com. Wanted to get pre-approved? Chatmortgage.com. Don't waste time looking. Only the
So I was watching one of those shows this morning as I was getting ready, and I think they were selling stuff in, it wasn't Miami, but it was somewhere in Florida. And
The beachfront bargain hunt cracks me up.
Well, they were offering them 2, so I think they were each listed for like, I don't know, $7.5 million. So they offered $14 million for both.
Of course.
That's yeah,
Chip change.
yeah.
Contact the Cindi Richardson team. It's all part of Keller Williams. They will get it done for you. Each Keller Williams office is independently owned and operated. Google Richardson Group. That's
I love Jed. They'll get it done for you.
I need to listen to them in the morning to see if they're having trouble with it.
You can find them on Facebook and YouTube at Richardson Group. And they're
There's
also
Jack.
qualified. If you have
They may not be able to hear Jack.
the experts of the Richardson Group at 790-7979 or online at rg423.com.
Hey guys, welcome back to Real Estate Today with Cindi and Jody. We have been talking about the HGTV effect and how we can still get you in a house that you really like, but maybe not in 3 days with a camera crew there. But, you know,
On a
we'll
positive
do our
note, at
best.
least HGTV has showed people that you can buy a home, an ugly home, and actually do some very simple things to make it attractive.
You know, and I think it's important. Are there 9 million foreclosures out there? Are there crazy opportunities where you're going to, buy a house for $10,000 and sell it for $400,000? No, if I'm being honest, no. If you do buy a house if you're open to buying a house that needs a little bit of love, there is still
Cosmetically.
absolutely room for equity, for improvement in this market. Would you not agree?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I mean, I went in, I think three not foreclosures, but rough.
Distressed.
I don't even, they were homeowner sales, but what I'm seeing more than foreclosures, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a lot of landlords are aging out.
Mm-hmm.
And, if they don't have family that's going to take over that, people that have large amounts of rental property, that's a full-time job. That's a lot of business.
But typically, they repair the things that tenants complain about.
And
so,
yeah.
Usually it's a good roof, a good central heat and air system, and then it goes kind of down from there.
And the fact of the matter is, if I'm renting something to someone, they're paying their rent, it's cash flowing, I don't really care. I mean, the reason I charge them a security deposit is so I can replace carpet and paint and so on and so forth. But getting a house ready for a rental versus getting a house ready to sell is completely different. And that is what I'm still continuing to see. I mean, I saw 3 last week where investors were looking at them to flip them, to sell them to single family homes because we're lacking in that price range. But they had been rentals for such a long time. Like Cindi said, one of them had a brand new roof and I fell through a piece of plywood in the kitchen floor. But it had a brand new roof and a central heating and air unit that worked, that was good. So that may be more, if you've got somebody that honestly says, I want to put money into a flip, this, I think, searching for foreclosures is maybe not the way to do that anymore. Tell me about a pre-foreclosure. How do you feel about those?
I mean, there's no such thing. That just
I
means
get that
somebody's
phone call
behind
all
on their
the time.
payment.
Yeah, I see this
It's
house
because
is
there's so
gonna
many
go into
websites
foreclosure.
out there that says, you join a monthly membership and they're going to give you pre-foreclosures. There's
Yeah.
no such thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that just means somebody missed a payment. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean they're not going to catch it up. Doesn't mean that.
And it's very difficult for a individual buyer who's not paying cash to go in and buy a home directly from the bank. So
Here we go.
call a realtor. We want to help you. Let us help you. We're not Chip and Joanna Gaines, but we'd like to consider ourselves the next best thing. Thank you for joining us on Real Estate Today with Cindi and Jody. We'd love to be with you. We'll see you next week.